Welcome to The Route to Revenue, two entrepreneurs sharing the path to curbside cash flow. I'm Ben.
And I'm Mike. We're both founders of two successful recurring revenue businesses in the home services industry, and we've built our companies from startup to profitable and scalable operations.
This is the show for entrepreneurs serious about building sustainable home service businesses. Whether you're starting out, scaling up, or ready to move beyond trading time for money, we share proven strategies for creating predictable monthly revenue streams.
And while our expertise comes from the bin cleaning industry, the systems and principles we discuss work for any recurring revenue home service. Think lawn care, pest control, pool maintenance, and beyond.
Each episode, we break down real-world strategies for customer acquisition, retention, operational efficiency, and building systems that generate consistent income while you step back from daily operations.
Are you ready to transform your home service businesses from a demanding job into a profitable asset? This is The Route to Revenue.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Route to Revenue. I'm Ben Magee with Green Can Cleaner, and I'm here with Mike Walker from Spiffybin. And what are we talking about today, Mike?
We've got, I think, a really good episode in store here. We've kind of subtitled it The Misinformation Problem in the Bin Cleaning Industry. There's a lot of people that have good intentions, and then there's perhaps people that have different intentions, and they may be giving some myths. So we've come up with at least 5 to start. Whether we add some at the end of the day will be at the end of the episode will be determined. But we talked about, well-meaning operators that, they're sharing some perhaps bad advice, information that may be too optimistic and or falsely inflated. And I think we're going to take a minute to kind of go through those. What do you think?
So yeah, here's a place where kind of the reason that we started doing this podcast is because we both looked at things and, I've seen too many times where a guy or a family, however you want to say that, puts their life savings into a business and they didn't get real information to begin with. And as a result, they get into it and they realize that they're not cut out for it, or they don't want to do it for whatever reason. And there went their life savings. Now they're trying to recoup what they can, and it's just sad to watch, sad to see. And the bottom line is that most businesses fail. And so, you need to make sure that you're getting the right information before you make that big of a decision in life, and especially with your life savings. And so that's kind of why we started the podcast. And so this episode is really, we've kind of been toying with whether we should do this episode or not. And you know what? Here goes, because this is why we're here.
And I would encourage too, you talked about the life savings part. We have a previous episode, I forget which number it is, where we talked about having enough of a runway, runway being you have enough money in plan for. Because one of the myths here is how quickly you can become either cash flow positive or break even. I would suggest that most of these failures come because they didn't do the planning ahead of time or the preparations. Not everybody's cut out to be a business owner. Some people just need a check every 2 weeks. There's very few people that are the ones providing those checks, if you will, by creating a business to be able to pay employees and whatnot. Additionally, and we'll talk about this again, is, a lot of times, you spend whatever you spend on a rig. Well, that's not worth that amount, even 2, 3, 4 weeks later or 6 months later. It's worth a whole lot less. Some of that money went into obviously profit of the first guy. Well, the next guy doesn't want to pay that. A lot of it went into a wrap. Nobody's going to pay for that. A lot of it got deteriorated over the last 6 months or 6 years. Nobody's going to want to pay for that. So like at the end of the day, you think, I put 50 in, I'll get 50 out. I don't think so.
No.
But anyways, that's
okay.
Let's get into the down and dirty.
Let's get started. Our first myth today, you can clean 50 plus cans an hour.
Sure.
So, guys, I mean, I will tell you that at a hauler yard, so a waste hauler return cans, which, yeah, I know they're one-time cleans, they're dirty, they're filthy. I mean, we plan on 15 to 20 cans an hour there, where we don't have to move the rig. And that's where it's at. So for us, and if I'm honest, our results are probably closer to 15 than they are to 20 most of the time. Now, we don't make, I know a lot of guys that clean at haulers, they take different crews and they're doing pre-treat, and we send one rig and that's what it does, generally. So I can definitely temper that answer, but that's the bottom line for us. Housing with recurring, that sort of thing. Monthly clients do clean a little quicker than quarterly. You're going to throw some some on-demand cleanings in there. I mean, and it varies. I mean, even on my crew, if I put the same guys in the same truck and send them out on the same route, I'm going to get 2 different times. It's just the nature of the beast. And so anyone that's telling you, oh, you can clean 50 cans an hour or something like that, it's a tough number to come up with. And the real answer is, well, it depends. And I can't give you an answer because Mike cleans cans different than Ben cleans cans.
Yep. And I would agree to add on to that, extrapolate, the 50 cans an hour typically is at a hauler when they're saying this. I mean, it's not going to be out in the wild or the residential streets. But for us, it's anywhere from 7 to 10 stops, I guess I would say, out in the world. And the 10 would be optimal, right? I mean, that would be crazy optimal. That's where you've got, 2 or 3, you're doing 2 or 3 houses right at the one stop, and then you're moving ahead, you're doing 2 more and so on and so forth. And you're kind of at a blazing speed. But I would say for us, the overall average is probably around 6 to 7 cans an hour. If we took everything, and out in the wild, if you will. And it should, and I think a lot of it depends on how your business mentality is and what your level of service is as well. I don't necessarily want my guys in and out in 2.5 minutes. Could they be? Perhaps, if they didn't dry them, if they didn't walk them up to the curb, if they didn't look for all the nuances, if they didn't spray the outside and, make sure everything's perfect, but then it wouldn't be spiffy. So we want to make sure that the stop is done 100%. So
that's the other thing is, I mean, wipe the cans, don't wipe the cans, all of that. And
that'll all go
if
into
we
your
looked
number.
at another, yep. And if we looked at, other industries, I mean, the lawn care as an example, are you edging every time with an edger, or are you just taking the weed eater and running up the edge? I mean, there's always going to be differences in times in a recurring revenue home service business. So tough number, but I think that whatever business you're in, I mean, you can be realistic. Go and, look. I mean, if you're looking at can cleaning and that, hire someone to clean your cans or watch YouTube videos or whatever and time it and see how long it actually takes, and then go from there and know that you're going to be somewhere in that ballpark.
And know that when you're doing can or stop number 37 to 40, you're not going to be going as fast as when you did 1 to 10, right?
Sure.
So, and it's nobody's fault other than just, in and out of the truck 38 times is tough. I know you routinely can do, 60 to 80 stops in a day. We've never gotten to that number. We've run out of capacity before that. I think the most I've ever done was 53, maybe 54 stops. Most of those were 2 bins, some were 3, but some were 1. But I think personally, our number is once we start to get above 40, 40 stops. be that 80 to 100 cans, I guess would be the number in there. I start to go, we're gonna have to move it onto another truck or something along that lines. What are your thoughts on that as far as myths go?
For us, I mean, we do pack a lot of stops into our routes sometimes, and what we do is, for us, I know that, some of my guys are faster than others. Some of the trucks are more efficient than others. And, in a perfect world, everything would go the same every time. That's just not the case. I know who I can push and who I can't. I will tell you that we have had days where I scheduled and really needed toward, the afternoon and that sort of thing, this guy to be able to do 15 cans an hour, 15 stops an hour. So 30 cans an hour.
Right. Wow.
Which is, I mean, it's moving.
Yeah,
And
I'll say.
but I do have and have had some guys that were capable of that. So again, it just depends on what you're doing and the cleaning process and all of that. You're going
And
to
I
get
think
variable.
too, I think there's a difference between the average through the month and an anomaly day. I mean, we've got many days that are like that, where you're like, okay, everybody's got 47 stops today. And, but there are generally, I mean, to make that, the only way for me to make that work is they've got to be
The only way.
like a softball
Right.
size on the map and just, that kind of thing. So,
We have one neighborhood that we're approaching 30% saturation in.
yeah, and that's always
And
helpful with the numbers.
so, I mean, we send one guy in and he cleans, and you can achieve, or we can achieve 15 stops an hour in there,
Yeah,
as long as the trash hauler has done their job. So, let's move on. So
yeah,
myth number 2, you'll be profitable in 3 months.
sure. Again, yeah. I mean, it sounds great. 100%
Yeah.
sounds great. It's not, and the reason it's in this myth column is because it's a myth, in my opinion. And certainly, John Conway, he's the gentleman that makes our rigs, and he was on one of the earlier calls. He said it best, not to expect a profit for 2 years. That's the reality, he said. I think that isn't going to be the same for everybody, but it's a pretty good rule of thumb to go into it thinking that. And again, you talked about it earlier, what is it, 80-90% of the businesses fail. I mean, if you're in any business, I don't think there's many that are supposed to be profitable. Certainly, brick and mortar stores are definitely not. Maybe you could suggest like an Etsy store or something where you're doing it out of your kitchen. Okay, maybe. But if you're
That's a hobby,
having,
not a business.
yeah, right. I would argue that that's just a hobby or a side gig or
Right.
whatever we're supposed to call it now. But I think if you're running a true business, and you're going to have payroll, and you're going to have warehouses, and you're going to have vehicles, and you're going to have insurances, all that stuff. I mean, all that stuff takes money to do that. I think I broke even, or I was breaking even around 7 months. This was back years ago though, right? This was back in 18, 19. And then we had the COVID thing, and that was money in the bank for me, at least. But I don't think I paid myself for like a year, and then I just did a nominal amount. I think it was like 500 a week or something, not even 500 every other week or something. Like, it was something stupid. But I was to the point where I'm like, I got to get something for this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, at least feel like, I could see, and I knew it was improving, of course. But I also recognize that I wanted to, everybody wants to put everything back into it. And I think about then is when I heard about the profit first thing. And we've talked about in that previous show but I knew I needed to see something going that direction, because otherwise, what are we doing this for?
So, Mike, I want to keep moving on these because I do want to get through these. So, myth number 3, just buy the cheapest trailer setup to start. Now, you and I both started differently. For me, I I didn't do the cheapest, but I did what I felt like was the cheapest quality way to start, which was a trailer. It was a 2 can trailer. Um, because I knew that for me, I was going to need that to be able to scale, and I knew that the truck was the next step. But I did not want to risk my entire life savings on a business venture that, honestly, I mean, 8 years ago, this thing was not proven at all. When I started 8.5 years ago, when I was looking at this and starting this business, there was no one out there that, there's some that were operating, but it was the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah,
So
100%.
what are your thoughts on just buy the cheapest trailer setup to start?
I don't know. Well, I do know. I would say no. If you, it goes back to the runway thing. If you only have 15 grand and you can, then I can make my own on a single axle trailer with the IBC totes, and I can use a wand, or I can hook up to the customer's, house and power and run a 2.2 gallon a minute electric pressure washer with no hot water. I would argue you should work your regular job, work harder, work more time, spend more time on overtime, do whatever you got to do, and eat rice and beans like the Dave Ramsey method says, and save money and be ready to run it the right way. There are Harbor Freight tools, and then there's like DeWalt tools and stuff. And, at some point you want to have the right tool. In my opinion, I want to have the right tool. I want to project an image that says, I'm in this for the long haul, and it's a professional company. And that's what I did from day one. I went with the truck, the one that's up here kind of. And I think that's important. That was important for me.
Well, here's the other thing that goes with buying a decent piece of equipment for whatever you're doing. In our business, having a manufacturer like a Sparkling Bins, John Conway standing behind and being able to call. I don't know how many times I called and said, hey, I don't understand what's going on with my machine.
Yeah.
And
shout out to David Sanchez. That guy is
shout out
gold.
to David Sanchez.
He's gold. He can answer anything in a heartbeat. He's forgotten more than all of us know.
We just brought someone on to start kind of managing our fleet and get it in shape, and that was one of the first introductions I made for him was, call David. I can help you, but David is magical.
Yeah.
And always available. And I know that the other manufacturers have similar things for people that buy from them. And so, having the ability to make those calls and say, hey, this is going wrong. I'm not sure what's going on. My truck that I have that Brandon Fowler built, I have called Brandon and he has helped me, in the early days. So I think that there's more than just, I can get into this business cheap. And I think to your point, this idea of, I can build this cheap trailer and I can't afford hot water. If you can't afford hot water, you can't afford to be in this business. And
there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. You're just not at that point yet. You're just not at the point yet.
Go get a job. Go get another job, a second job, or like Mike said, whatever you need to do. If you really want to do this, then there's a way to get in and get in right.
Mm-hmm.
But just getting in with crappy equipment that you don't know how to manage and maintain and isn't going to do the job properly, you're not going to win in any business that way, is my opinion.
And I didn't have a pile of cash either. We want to keep moving, but I didn't have a pile of cash either. We kind of do in a home equity, but again, you want to get serious about a business, have a piece of your house in a home equity loan on the line, and you'll all of a sudden figure out that I got to be serious about it. But that's how I did it, right? I didn't have 100,000 or 115,000 or whatever it was at the time, just laying around, collecting dust. So you got to take a chance, perhaps.
You put it on the line. What a conversation to have. Hey, sorry kids, but my business failed and I had the house on the line. So There's a tent across the street that we'll be staying in for a
No,
while.
we had a nice I think we had a nice minivan. We were good.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Myth
Okay.
4. Let
Moving
me
on. Myth
shoot
4.
this one to you. Myth 4. Pricing is simple. Just charge what the market charges. What's the guy down the street doing? What's the guy in Tampa doing? What's the guy in Alaska doing? I think that should work for what we should charge in Atlanta or Denver, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I I just hate this and I see it all the time and we see the question all the time, what should I charge or what are you charging? I Number one, do some market research. And here's another okay, my pet peeve. If you're going to start up and someone else is already operating there, you're not giving up any secrets by reaching out to them and saying, "Hey, I'm starting up in your area." Reach out, contact, make a friend if at all possible. Yeah, there's going to be some guys that are going to be all upset about it. I ran into one of those when I was starting, and that is what it is. But this idea of just charge what the market charges, well, what if the guy down the street, you don't know this, but he's actually losing his butt and is of the mindset, oh, it's a new business. I'm just starting out. I can't charge what I should be charging. So I'm going to use this as a loss leader. And by the way, I've taken Mike's advice. And so I've got plenty of dough behind me. And I can do this for a long time if I need to. And then I'll move my prices up and I'm making an investment. Could be the case. So actually what you need to do on this is and we're going to do another episode probably next week about this exact thing, but know what your costs are, know where you're at, actually do some research and figure out what you should charge. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to do what the guy down the street does and take it and do $1 less per can. Mike, any input?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I first started again, 7 years ago, whatever it was, that was as great as John Conway was at making rigs. He also, I don't want to throw anybody in the bus. He also provided ideas on pricing. And his thing was $8.99 a bin, $14.99 for two stops or for two bins at a stop. And I'm looking at that going, geez, I don't know. Like how can you make that work? And, all that kind of stuff. Again, different markets. And I would contend that if you were in Miami and you had the crisscross patterns of Miami and it was easy to get places, I've got streams and rivers and bridges. I mean, every other street here or every other road is McGinnis Ferry, Holcomb Bridge Road. Like there's only a few ways to get across the rivers in different spots here, and they were all ferries at one point. Now they're bridges, but still, So I looked at that pricing and I'm like, that just didn't make sense. And again, I don't know that some people would have taken that and they would have started it for $14.99. I started at $20. And $19.99, and I at least felt like I was ahead of the game a little bit for my market. Would it have been different somewhere else? So we give the good and bad, as far as advice goes, and we, I'm sorry, John, didn't mean to call you out, but that was again 8 years ago. I think you're giving different advice now, so there is that. But
yeah, okay. Myth 5: this business basically runs itself once you're set up.
When does that happen, Ben? Is that year 10 or 12 or 16? When is that happening? Because I need to know.
Yeah, I'm still looking for that. And here's the thing is, do we get systems and processes in place and do things get easier? Yes, they do. But if you're like me, and I know that you were, Mike, and you're that solo operator, man, it is when you're scaling and the first employee or two, certainly the first driver or two, I think actually cost me time at first rather than saving me time.
Yeah.
Now I'm at a point where when we bring a driver on, we have a driver trainer, we have, schedules already figured out. We have all of that stuff done. And so it's a different place. But yeah, I don't know. When does it run itself, Mike?
I have not found it yet. I have not found it yet. And you mentioned too, it gets easier and stuff like that. with the systems and whatnot, but it gets easier because you've got more revenue to make it easier too. So you're trading revenue or dollars for ease, and there's nothing wrong with that. I do the same thing, but it's certainly not any easier. I mean, I know when my guys are running on Saturday, I was telling somebody the other day, I wake up, I was telling Ariana, my daughter, when I wake up on Saturday, I usually get up same time every day, 7:00, 6:45, whatever. I know you get up much earlier, Ben. But I usually get up around that time, and I'm always waiting for that, for that notification that they've gotten to the warehouse, gotten here and gotten in, because you just don't know. Like, I mean, I feel pretty confident that they would let me know, right? But you just don't know. And you
never know.
Maybe you've got 85 stops relying on, a spiffy truck to go there on a Saturday or Sunday, or Saturday rather. And, you just got to make sure it's there. So anyways, that's, I have not found that it runs itself yet. It's very active. It does get easier with help. Now I don't answer, all the phone calls and stuff like that. But it definitely does not run itself. And to be fair, it requires people or you to run it. I mean, right? It's not a set it and forget it.
Yeah, I mean, when I say it gets easier, and you're absolutely right, it gets easier because I have the revenue and the ability to hire people to do what I used to be able to do that honestly, I mean, I couldn't do today. It's not, I mean, there's no way that I could, when I started out, I could do all the stops myself. There's no way I could do all of our stops myself today. No. That's one example. I have to have drivers or technicians in place to be able to go do the stops.
And that was a decision you made, right? I mean, when you went into it, you could have stuck with the trailer and a pickup truck, and you could have had whatever number of stops and just stopped it, right? I want to do 35 stops a day, and I want to just do it, and I want to buy myself a job, but you chose to buy yourself, to create a business. And right. Those are two different things. I mean, are you better off running, 4 trucks and paying all the things? I don't know, maybe. But there's also one would say, well, heck, if you had just one guy, yourself, and you had one truck and you did 35 stops a day and the route was set, I don't know. I mean, arguably, I think we'd probably make more money doing that, but we have not created a business. And when we want to go on vacation, the revenue's zero. Now, as a business, when you go on vacation, there's still there's revenue. And nothing arguably changes. So, that was the difference. I remember when we were going to buy truck 2, she's like, wait a minute. My wife was like, wait a minute, we're buying another one? I thought you're just not. I'm like, what did you think I was, did you think? Clearly we didn't talk enough to figure it all out. But did you really think that this was, I was just going to stop at one? Like, that doesn't make sense. So she also didn't know we were buying a boat, and we bought a boat. So there is that too.
Well, there you go.
Where does the misinformation?
So good to you.
I tell you, she tolerates a lot. Where does the misinformation come from? I mean, what do you think? What do you think got these myths, right?
I actually think that most of it is actually well-intentioned. I think that it's people that are excited to share about their business, and they're coming in and they are just trying to help someone else and putting things out there. And, I don't think that for the most part it is meant to mislead. I don't think that it's meant to be anything other than helpful. One of the things in our society, social media definitely rewards confidence and optimism, and, versus nuanced and realistic opinions. I mean,
yeah.
And
you see it in real life, right? Oh, the Millers are always going on vacation, or people are always on vacation. Well, you only see, 10% of us go on vacation any given week, but we'll say, or whatever, 5% of you people, well, they're the ones that are posting it. So every week it looks like everybody's going on vacation, but you don't see the other 25 weeks where they're not going on vacation and they're sitting at home. Or, you hear about the wins. You mentioned the wins. I just got an HOA for 275 homes. You're going to post that, but you're not going to post necessarily that, the trucks need tires and brakes and oil changes. And here I am paying for all that. So you hear the good, right? And like you said, social media is more fun hearing good than bad. So I get that. Someone is financially motivated too, no?
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is when you're looking at things, I mean, vendors are in business to sell things, and that's just part of the deal. And it's in their best interest to make this business or any business sound easier and more profitable than it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't actually know of anyone that I feel like is intentionally misleading people, but it certainly happens. And I think that some of the information comes from there.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
What's the solution?
I mean, the solution, in my opinion, is making sure that you are taking the information in and you're putting your own, not spin on it, but you're working through that information. Who's it coming from? Do they have do they have a different skin in the game? Is it something that makes sense? Is it something that seems inflated? And then perhaps reach out to other operators that have been through, right? I mean, before we all bought our trucks, or at least before I bought mine, made a bunch of phone calls. But figure that part out and don't just take it as gospel. I mean, that's what I did.
And do some checking on what you hear. I mean, I'm going to throw an example out that you and I were talking about the other day. There's someone that's claiming that they have X number of customers, but yet then they're claiming that they bring on X number of customers every day and every week, and the math doesn't math.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you've got X number of customers, and you brought on X number per week, I mean, you'd suddenly have X number of customers, and
Jesus, I think I failed algebra, so I'm a little lost with the analogy you're talking about.
I'm trying not to put numbers out there.
Please
but
don't
I'm
bring
just
a
gonna
Y
say
into this equation. I only want X's. X's are fine, but no XYs.
If you're putting out there, that you've got 1,000 recurring customers, and yet you're putting out there that you're picking up 100 customers every week.
Okay.
And
that's good.
You've been in business for 5 years. Well, the math doesn't math.
Gotcha. See, once you take algebra out of it, I get it.
Once I take algebra out of it, we probably all get it. I was just trying to not throw, specifics out there.
I'm kidding.
Anyway. Yeah, no. Anyway, I mean, I think that, just looking at that, and you and I discussed it and went, yeah, the math doesn't math. So I probably am not going to listen to what this person's saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it with a grain of salt and go, okay, well, we'll move on. So other than that, how else do you vet the information that you find online?
I mean, typically, somebody shares the insurance is this number. Well, you can check with other, other vendors, other insurance companies. When in doubt, go right back at them and maybe ask that tough question. So you said we could do 50 hauler bins. Show me how's that process happen? I'll be frank, years ago, there's one vendor out there that sells these rigs that said they could do 500 bins. And honestly, there was an operator that said they could do 500 bins at a hauler with one truck. And I called BS and I said, I would love to see the next time you do that. And I said, if you even get close, I'd love to see a video of you, and it speed it up, whatever you need to do, whatever, time lapse thing, whatever.
Yep.
But there's no way you're getting even close to 400, let alone 500 in a day. I mean, I think we did 2 something at a hauler. And, could we have worked 15 hours? I suppose, yes. We didn't. But, I mean,
that's a brutal day, too, Mike.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, that's a
for the machine,
day.
for the people, for everything. It's awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're probably doing it for $6, $3 a bin. So then you're not even getting paid for it, really. I mean, effectively.
Yeah.
So,
the other thing that you can do is is cross-check the information. See if there's, again, use the search function. We talked about this in another episode.
Yep.
See if there's something out there that another reputable operator has put out there that's similar to the advice that you're getting.
Yep. 100%.
So action step for this. Think about a decision that you've made based on something from social media, whether that's Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and go verify the information. Don't just take it at face value. If it checks out, great. If it doesn't, then you've saved yourself maybe a potentially expensive mistake, which I think that's a great action step.
Or make sure you have that. Yeah. If you don't do all that, just make sure you have a big enough camper so when they take your house, you've got a place that you can move into. How is that for doing full circle?
That is an action step. Make sure you've got a big camper to move into.
Yeah,
if you lose your
that's
house.
better than a minivan. Let me just say that. But no, I think all you've said is there's nothing to add to that. That's fantastic. Again, just do your research. Just do your research. Yep. Just do your research. And you'll be better off for it. And understand that it might not be the time, and that's fine. It might, you might have to push it off a couple of years. That's fine. So
it's
excellent,
okay.
Ben.
As long as you have a goal in mind, work toward it.
That's right. 100%. What do they say? You aim high. If you aim high and miss, it's better than aiming low and hitting. That's I like that theory. Your trajectory is going to be there, but you got to make sure you've done the background for it. So awesome episode. I appreciate your time once again. If you've enjoyed this episode, give us a comment, a like, a subscribe, a share, all that fun stuff that you're supposed to say on these things. And we look forward to seeing you the next time around.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, Ben, that's a wrap on another episode of The Route to Revenue. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you would hit like, subscribe, and leave us old guys a comment about what we did well. And if we did anything wrong, can it and keep it to yourself.
If today's strategy sparked some ideas for your business, don't keep them to yourself. Share this episode with a fellow entrepreneur who could benefit from these insights.
Remember, building a recurring revenue business, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Take one actionable step from today's discussion and implement it in your business this week.
Want to connect with us between episodes? Find us on Facebook or at our website. We'd love to hear how you're applying these concepts in your own home service business.
And until next time, keep building those recurring revenue streams and stay on the route to revenue.
The route to revenue.
Nice, Ben.